get started. It's our last webinar of the year, December 2019. Can you even believe it? Okay, so good morning, or I guess technically it's officially good afternoon. My name is Sarah Snable. I am going to be doing the webinar this month, and we are talking about what makes a product ergonomic. Really, this is one of my most favorite kind of topics to talk about because I think we could take it in so many different directions. There are so many different products out there. You know, I could spend like a day talking about office ergonomic products, but it could also be talking about tools or household items or, you know, just about anything when we talk about a product and the term ergonomic. So to kind of give you just a little bit of background information on how the webinar goes, again, if you have any questions or comments, you are welcome to use the chat bar. You should see that in the menu panel along the right side of your screen. Again, I'm doing present, I will be the one speaking. I will check in with comments throughout. Sometimes I might miss them, but my colleague Julie is on as well, so she'll be able to field some questions as well. So feel free as we go through. I will ask a lot of questions sort of in a make you think type of way, but by all means, I would love to hear your feedback or comment or questions throughout. If by chance we start running out of time or something like that, where I don't get to all of the questions, I will 100% follow up with all of you. Or if you think of a question after the fact, that is fine too. You can submit it here and I will get back to you, or you can always email or call. Yeah, okay, so that's kind of the webinar kind of background. If you've never been in touch with ergonomics, with PROergonomics, I just wanted to give you a little bit of information on our company. I know we get a lot of regular followers each month, but also, you know, maybe you've never really heard of us, you just saw that the topic was interesting. But we are a team of ergonomists. We do consulting work, and in terms of areas where we specialize, well, we're a little bit into everything. So we do a lot of industrial or manufacturing type environments. We work with a lot of municipalities, with some healthcare, with some school boards, private industry. So it could range from office ergonomics to doing risk assessments to training. Really, the options are sort of endless. Between the 5 of us, we've been into a whole bunch of different industries. And really, our goal, one, is to try to reduce injuries and make for a healthy, contribute to the health and well-being of the workplace. And really doing it in a way where, in a top-notch customer service perspective, we strive to be professionals. We want to make sure that you are getting the best solutions. And so we really work together behind the scenes as a team to kind of come up with those and do all of our resource sharing and make sure that you're always getting an expert in the field and that you're getting a professional solution. So if ever any questions about PROergonomics, you can always check out our website, or if you're curious about some of the services that we provide, absolutely you can reach out to us as well to have a chat. So yes, so today's webinar is what makes a product ergonomic. And so my loose agenda for today is, one, I want to be able to define the term ergonomic. And this kind of comes from a presentation that I saw not too long ago, which I really kind of took from, was that, you know, we can't really get to where we're going. We don't really know where we're going unless we know where we are, right? So in terms of ergonomic, if we want to know what defines a product as ergonomic, we do need to just make sure that we recap on that definition of what is ergonomic. You know, what is the goal of ergonomics? And then that is the foundation for how we will, you know, go forward in evaluating a product. The goal of my webinar today, the message that I want to get across is to help you become an educated consumer, be an educated buyer. I want you to be able to look at a product and question it, and not necessarily doubt every single thing that it says, but also not necessarily automatically believe that everything on the package is true. We want to, again, be able to understand what the term ergonomic means, and then make sure that it has been used properly in that advertising or marketing perspective. Sometimes I think that it can be used sort of in a gimmicky fashion. So that's my goal today, is just to get you to make you think about when you see the term ergonomic on packaging, really think about whether or not that's true, if it's been used properly, and, you know, if that product is going to be the right solution. And I've got a couple of different examples that we're going to go through. So that's my plan. So starting off, we will discuss what is ergonomics. And so likely you've tuned in today, you likely have some kind of some background on what is ergonomics, but I wanted to give you that this is the wordy definition. It's that scientific discipline and how humans interact with a system, right? So it is ultimately to optimize human well-being and overall system of performance. So what does that really mean? Well, human well-being is reducing the risk of injuries, right? We're talking about those strains and sprains, the chronic musculoskeletal disorders. System performance can be efficiency, it can be productivity, it can be cost savings, right, as a factor of being more productive and more efficient. So it's how the human interacts with their system. So that can be the equipment that they're using, the tasks that they're doing, in the environment that they're working in. It's all of those things. So, I mean, you've probably seen the term ergonomic used to describe a chair or a keyboard or, oh gosh, I've been just in preparation for this webinar, I've been noticing it a ton, like even ergonomic earbuds, ergonomic, what was the really funny one that I saw? I just thought anyways, just sometimes you see it on packages and you're like, how is that even ergonomic? And it even makes me stop and think. But knowing that ergonomics is how a human interacts with their system, ideally to optimize well-being and system performance. And, you know, the short and easy way of defining it and the way to remember it and really grasp it is that it's fitting the work to the worker. Now, ergonomics doesn't have to apply just in work. However, that is, with PROergonomics, that is our business, is providing services to other businesses. But ergonomics 100% applies to home and play. So it's like work, life, and play would be how you could extend that definition of ergonomics. So, you know, you can have, it doesn't have to just be at the workplace, but ergonomics would apply everywhere, but it's fitting the work to the worker. Or you can say fitting the work or the task type of thing to the worker or to the person or to the human. So for example, sitting at an office, sitting in your chair, you would be adjusting the chair to fit you, right? If that chair didn't fit you, if it was too short, too deep, maybe the backrest wasn't the right shape, what would happen is that you'd be adopting a bad posture or an awkward posture to sit in the chair. So you would be putting your body in an awkward posture to be able to use that chair. Whereas in the ideal way, when ergonomics is working smoothly, is that you're adjusting that chair to fit your body, to support neutral postures, to make you comfortable, which then helps to improve productivity and efficiency and all of that system performance. And again, speaking in line, I'm not going to go through a ton of time talking about MSDs because I just don't want to spend a ton of time on that. Like that's a whole nother, you know, introduction to ergonomics type of a conversation. However, to make sure that we understand what ergonomics, injuries that ergonomics is trying to prevent, is remembering that it is those like kind of like a chronic or an overuse or a repetitive strain type of injury. It's stuff that happens, injuries that happen over a long time. So it's not just, you know, you start a new job today and all of a sudden tomorrow you have an MSD. It's the stuff that you've been doing for weeks or months or years, and it's affecting your soft tissue, the muscles, the tendons. It's not that slip on curb, you know, where you twisted your ankle, and yes, you damaged a soft tissue there, you damaged a ligament. However, that was an acute injury. You know exactly what caused that injury. And so sometimes what happens with an MSD is it's not really a very specific or a clearly known cause, just lots of contributing factors. So that's important because we want to, again, know that the symptoms could be discomfort, stiffness, remembering that when we are looking at a product, right, this is where I'm going, is that when we look at a product, to know whether or not it is ergonomic is it going to be preventing one of these MSD injuries, right? A repetitive strain injury, a strain, a sprain, this overuse. Is it going to be helping with some of these discomfort symptoms that somebody might be experiencing? You know, it could be any number of these. So what makes a product ergonomic? So ergonomic means that you're fitting the work to the worker, or we're optimizing that well-being, we're optimizing the system performance, right? Remember that definition. So when we look at a product, we want to make sure, is it actually helping to reduce our risk of injury? Is it actually helping to improve our system performance, right? Is it making us more efficient? Is it enabling us to do the task faster or safer or easier with fewer mistakes? Is it allowing us to be more productive? All of those things we want to, and it could be any number of those things. I know that I've been just doing a couple of random Google searches, typing the word in ergonomic just to kind of see what kind of products even come up. And ergonomics is up there, oh my gosh, a ton of times. Like, you might see it for different chairs, right? That would probably be a pretty common thing. As an ergonomist, if somebody isn't super familiar with ergonomics, that would be a pretty common comment that I would get back, was like, oh, like you do all those fancy chairs for people in offices. And you know what? Yes, I do. There's a lot more to it than that. But here's an example of 2 chairs. If you did a Google search for ergonomic chair, it is very likely that you are going to find both of these chairs come up as ergonomic. And if you know any kind of detail about chairs, you would be able to tell that by looking at these chairs, they are not equal. And so I'm going to show a bunch of different product pictures, and in no way am I ever like individually slamming or, on the other side, recommending a specific product. These are all just images that showed up when I did a search of ergonomic. And when it comes to each of them, there's always a pro and a con for any of them. So this isn't to harp on negatively or positively on any particular product. But in these 2 cases, these chairs are not created equal. There's very different adjustability between them. We could type in an ergonomic mouse, and we might get any of these 3 different mice products. And again, if you are familiar with any of these, you know that they're all operated very differently. You have a standard one, you have one that puts your hand in a different position, you have that trackball or the rollerball style of mouse. If you were to do a search for ergonomic keyboard, you are likely to find a keyboard that looks pretty much identical to a keyboard that you probably use, or a standard keyboard, and you might find some with kind of funky modern shapes, right? Maybe it's split apart like this, maybe it's sloped, maybe it's angled, maybe the number pad is in a different spot. Maybe you will, well, this is a big thing right now, and I mean, it has been for a while, is people will say, oh, like my desk is set up so ergonomic. I have one of those sit stand things so I can sit or stand. And I always I just chuckle a little bit internally usually, because they are not all created equally. So just because you can sit or stand at your desk doesn't necessarily mean that you're ergonomically set up. But again, it's just kind of use of that word, right? The use of the word ergonomic, and sometimes just people's understanding or perceptions of what is ergonomic, and not necessarily going through all of the checklist to know, like, both of these products could be considered ergonomic, but I could also point out some flaws with both of them as well that would make them not as ergonomic. I also typed in ergonomic shovel. Just this time of year with snow coming, it is something that we get a lot of questions about. We happen to have a lot of conversations with staff about, because they are responsible for snow removal, maybe at the front entrance of their building. So when I did a quick little search for ergonomic snow shovel, these 3 options came up, and you can tell just by looking at them that there's something a little bit different about all of them. So which one's the best? Which one would you pick? And even something as simple as, like, if you're looking at home products, a can opener, or working in a kitchen, right? You type in ergonomic can opener, and both of these pop up. So one looks like a more traditional can opener, one's an electric can opener. So I am not going to go through necessarily evaluating all of these products, but I am going to go through evaluating a couple, just kind of giving you, I have some questions that I want to kind of use as our frame of reference. And we'll go through some examples. But in theory, you should be able to take those questions and apply them to every single one of these products, or any other products that you might be considering. So again, those were pictures that I pulled up just straight up from a Google search. Staples is a common place where you might buy office products, and just from a consumer perspective, when you type in the word ergonomic, over 2,000 items might show up. So if you are looking for the best, or you need a mouse, you've got an employee that you're dealing with who has some wrist injury or some wrist pain that you're trying to help with, so you type in ergonomic mouse, and 50 options show up. What do you pick? Like, that can be quite overwhelming, right? And Staples is one of those go-to spots. A lot of companies have accounts. This could be Grand and Toy, this could be CDW. It's just, the interesting thing really is that ergonomic, when you try to search for an ergonomic product, the options can be overwhelming, right? And it's on many, many, many packages. And this is kind of my point, is that that I think, and we as ergonomists, I know that some of you may agree too, is that maybe you see ergonomic on like a lot more packages, and I don't know, for me it makes me question, like, is that really ergonomic? Which leads me to my next thing, is like, who's really deciding what is ergonomic? So here's an example of a keyboard, and this is a regular keyboard. Right, take a peek at it. Sorry, the picture's like a smidge blurry here, but it's got regular keys, regular number pad. It's wired. Like, there at first glance, I don't see anything necessarily unique about this. However, it has, it's got the word ergonomics in the description. Improved ergonomics. So my question, just being the questioner that I am, is who decides what is ergonomic? Because it's not necessarily an ergonomist. I mean, I for sure have never been consulted by anybody to whether or not I would define something as ergonomic before it goes on a website. So just, keep that in mind, is that there is not necessarily, like, the term ergonomic, that word, it's not trademarked or anything. Like, it doesn't, people can just use the word whenever they want, for the most part, right? It doesn't have, again, it's not trademarked. It's not like you have to meet certain criteria. There's nobody checking to make sure that it meets certain criteria before it gets posted to advertise a product or gets printed on a label. The other challenge is that, this is a very classic, again, a question saying like, I need an ergonomic mouse. My wrist is killing me. What do you recommend? And my thoughts are always, oh my goodness, I have so many more questions, because I don't always recommend the exact same mouse, because I always want to take into account the person, like, what's their issue, what are the tasks that they do, have we looked at the rest of their workstation to make sure that we've ruled out any other factors, like, do we, just getting a different mouse, is that really going to solve the problem that was actually causing the wrist issues, right? Like, are they working on a laptop or regular? There's just so many questions about the workstation that I want to know. But every person is a little bit different. Not all injuries are the exact same. Just because this person has wrist discomfort and this person does, or they both have carpal tunnel syndrome, it doesn't necessarily mean that we can give them both the same mouse and it fixes things just the same, because it will depend on what they do, the setup of their workstation. And so that's part of the reason why there are so many options and products on the market, is because, and how I'll often say, like, I'm never going to slam one product and totally recommend another product, because I do feel that there are a variety of products out there and they have their time and place. There are times when I like a vertical mouse and I think it's a great option. And then there's the other time where I don't think that's the best option for that person. And I might go to something like a roller mouse. But I wouldn't recommend a roller mouse for everybody. It is quite different, but I don't necessarily think that it's the right solution for everybody. So one product can't solve all issues. So to immediately assume just because something is advertised as ergonomic, that it is going to solve that injury or solve all your problems, is also not true, right? That's a bit false. You could buy a product that doesn't even have the term ergonomic in the description and it could solve all the issues. So just be mindful of that. So again, my goal, I want to help you become an educated consumer. So to do this, I think that if you can ask a few good questions, that you should be able to evaluate these products on your own. Even just question them a little bit differently. So here, I'm going to go through, we'll walk through some keyboard examples. And so my first question is, how is the product unique? So how is it unique? How is it different from the standard version of it out there, or the version of what you are currently using, right? Or the employee, right? Maybe you're looking for something for yourself, or maybe you're looking for something because you're helping out a staff member or one of your employees. So look at that, thinking about a standard keyboard. The standard keyboard has your alpha keys, it has your number pad on the right side. Looking at these 4 keyboards, there are some noticeable difference about each of them. If you look at the top left, that keyboard is sort of a wave shape. And I probably guess that, I probably suggest maybe, I don't know, at least half the time when somebody says like, oh, like maybe I need one of those ergonomic keyboards, often they're thinking about something like this, something that has a bit of a wave shape to it. The one on the top right has no number pad. I'm not sure if you kind of look at that one closely, you'll see it's a compact size. There's no number pad at all. The one in the bottom left has the number pad on the left side. Check that out. So keys are in the same place, all the buttons, everything, except for a number pad just happens to be flipped onto the left side. Bottom right, keyboard's a little bit of a wave shape, and check out that number pad. It's separate. So in theory, you could put that the right side, the left side, right? So looking at all of these options, all of these would be considered ergonomic keyboards. Again, if you did a Google search, all of these keyboards I have recommended at some point in my career. Some of them I recommend maybe a little bit more frequently than others. And all of them I think could be beneficial to some people, but I would not recommend one product in particular for all people, any of these products in particular. So the first question is always looking at the product and trying to determine how it is unique. What are some of the very specific features of it that are different from the standard or different from the one that you're using or your employee's using? That's question 1. Question 2, how does this change how the user interacts with it? So remember, ergonomics is about how the human interacts with their system, and equipment is one of those things. So I've just pulled out a couple. Excuse me. I've just put out a couple here. So that one, the wave-shaped keyboard on top here. So if I were to look at that one and think about, okay, this one's got a bit more of a wave shape to it. How is it going to change how the person interacts with it? So because of that wave shape, it's probably going to change how their forearm and their elbows are positioned, right? You picture how you're going to type on your regular keyboard and then picture it being this shape, and you're immediately going to probably pull your elbows away from your body, right? Now, this is going to be good maybe for somebody with a wider shoulder breadth, because the keyboard itself, and I mean, you can't really tell from a picture, but if you've seen this one, just this keyboard in particular is just a little larger than a standard keyboard. And so that potentially is a good thing too, is that it's going to, you know, pull maybe your wrists and your forearms into a more neutral posture. However, for some people, this might mean that their mouse becomes a little bit further away. Well, for everybody, it's going to mean that their mouse is a little bit further away. That just only becomes problematic for some people, right? So that's kind of where I've got check. So yes, it's changing the forearm and elbow posture, probably changing my wrist posture as well. The wider profile, that's going to be good for somebody with a wider shoulder breadth, because maybe it's actually keeping their shoulders more neutral. And if they have large hands, this would be a good one too. If I look at the one on the bottom, this is the one where the number pad is flipped onto the left side. And for the most part, I think everything else is about the same. So in this case, how would it change how the user interacts? Well, now they're going to use their left hand to do the number pad entry. That's going to mean that their mouse on the right side is going to be a little bit closer to their body. Right, so in terms of like direct observations about what you're going to see exactly that, is that now you're going to have a better balance between your input devices. No, not necessarily saying that this is going to work for everybody, but that's going to be the next step, is evaluating it. Like how, who, and what injuries this might actually address. So question 1 is, what are the big differences? Like, how is it unique? And then 2, thinking about how will that change how the person interacts with it. So in this case, it's going to change some postures. And then you want to think about what kind of discomfort might this product help. Okay, so think about this wave type keyboard on top here. It has, again, that wave shape to it. If it puts your elbows at a bit of an angle now when you're typing, for some people, this is probably going to help with their elbow discomfort, possibly even wrist discomfort. It depends on whether this is actually creating more neutral postures for them. As an example, this type of a keyboard, I would probably most frequently recommend for somebody who does have a wider shoulder breadth or larger hands. Those would be probably two of the main reasons that I would recommend, that specific keyboard. Now, a keyboard with a wave shape to it doesn't have to necessarily get bigger like this, but again, I'd be looking at a wave shaped keyboard typically for forearm, elbow, or possibly even wrist discomfort. On the bottom, if I look at that keyboard with again, this one's the one with the number pad on the left side. This one would be this would be a really good recommendation, I think, for somebody who had right shoulder discomfort. Now, is it going to be for everybody with right shoulder discomfort? Well, no, but think about it, is that the right shoulder, usually that's your mousing shoulder. And so if there's something going on with your right shoulder, it could be attributed to the mouse. And if we're trying to improve right shoulder postures, maybe they were outstretched a little bit to the side to access the mouse. And so this would mean that their shoulder is going to be a little bit closer to their body because we've just moved the number pad over to a different side. Right, moved it over to the left side. Your mouse gets better real estate property there, a little closer to your body. And then we also want to consider number 4 here. Are there any drawbacks? So, sorry, I'm just going to flip back to slides question 3 here. Right. So the check marks here are that, yep, you know what, that'll improve forearm and elbow discomfort, and that's going to improve right shoulder. But what are the drawbacks? You know, would we go ahead and just recommend this for everybody? Well, no. The wider footprint, the larger footprint of that wave style keyboard does mean that you're likely going to see a bit more of a reach to the mouse. So that's not going to be great for people with smaller shoulder breadths or shoulder widths, unless maybe they don't use the mouse hardly at all. So again, that's where you're considering their tasks, but that's pretty unlikely in many cases. What you might also find is that people might not have the space for a keyboard that's this size. Maybe if they're working on a keyboard tray, one of those pull-out adjustable keyboard trays, it is possible that this size of a keyboard doesn't fit or doesn't leave enough room for the mouse. Or on their desktop, again, because it takes up a bigger footprint, it might not be the best solution depending on the other tasks that they do, right? Like paperwork or the phone or adding machine or, you know, and all the other little things that could be on the desk. What about the keyboard with the number pad on the left? Well, a drawback to this one is that if you are super savvy with your number pad, like I'm thinking the people like in finance, you know, doing accounting type entries, right, where you are really fast with your fingers to do the number pad stuff, putting the number pad on the left side might be frustrating. It can be really frustrating. So yes, we've improved your right shoulder posture, but we may have actually slowed down productivity and efficiency and increased frustration, maybe even increased potential for errors by using the number pad on the left side. So again, this is where this doesn't have to be, neither of these are the be-all end-all solution for wrist or forearm or shoulder discomfort, right? These are just options where you're going to want to consider the user's tasks and everything. So again, going through all of the questions is what makes them unique? Here, I'll scroll through. How is the product unique? How does it change how we interact with it? What discomfort might it help? And are there any drawbacks? So just kind of considering, you know, sure, that's improved the right shoulder discomfort, but did we introduce a new hazard? Or did we cause does this potentially cause a new problem? Okay, so I want to go through a couple other examples, not just keyboards. Keyboards are, I mean, there are so many keyboards out there, And so they're just kind of a very nice one as an example to kind of go through all of those questions. So as I'm talking here, if you guys have, as you're thinking about this, if you have any specific products that maybe, you know, what's like the weirdest thing that you've seen the term ergonomic on, and trying to think about how you might apply those questions to it. You know, the example that I saw recently was earbuds. They were ergonomic earbuds. And so, you know, what was unique about it? I don't know. Sometimes I couldn't tell. They looked like regular earbuds to me. You know, what discomfort would it reduce? You know, how would it help? And it doesn't have to be discomfort. Maybe it actually doesn't really improve discomfort at all. But maybe now it's talking about that kind of system performance, right? So maybe it had increased clarity in the sound, which would help to, I don't know, I guess minimize errors, or you know, you can, maybe it's a bit of a stretch because you're just listening to music on it. But anyways, I feel like all of those questions are going to apply when you're evaluating any product. And if you're really struggling to answer those questions, then it's possible that the term was just not really used properly. Okay, so here's an example of a case study here. So again, I am not necessarily saying that I dislike or like this one. I just want to evaluate it because I do think that this product could work for some people. And I'll just give you kind of a rundown on this product. So this is a sit-stand desktop product. So there are lots of these out on the market. It's very similar to this one. Doesn't have to be just Ergotron. But this would sit on top of your desk, and it would sort of like, is accordion the right style? I can't think of the word. And it would just raise up and down, right? So your whole desk doesn't go up and down, but your monitor would sit on that top platform, and you would be able to go up and down. I think there's actually a little squeeze lever on that top. You can see on the top left, and that you'd be able to squeeze that and take your monitor, your keyboard, and your mouse from sitting to standing. So here are the 4 questions that we want to ask. So we could be evaluating this product or any other sit-stand product on the market, but looking at how is this unique? Okay, so compared to my regular desk, this would be unique in the sense that it allows me to go to standing. My regular desk doesn't allow me to do that. What else? Well, it doesn't have to mount to my desk, so there's some other kind of nice things there too, is that, you know, it's not going to damage my desk. That's cool. Yeah, okay. What else is unique about it? This one actually happens to have, I don't know if I can use, do I have the ability to, oh, I do have a drawing tools. Okay, well, we'll see if we can do this. It has this ledge here. I hope you guys can see that. It has that ledge there. So that's actually for your keyboard and mouse. So you can actually have a little bit of a separation between your keyboard and your monitor. And that would definitely be a little bit unique compared to some of the other desktop sit-stand stations that are on the market. And you might be able to kind of go back and forth and compare specs between different products, like, because likely you are looking at this one, but you are having another product or your current desk or something in mind that you're comparing it to. Okay, so what injury would this be ideal for, right? Who would this, or how does it change how we interact? Well, now it's gonna, like the second question would be, how does it change how the user interacts? Well, it's gonna allow us to go between sitting and standing. So what injury is this ideal for? You know what, this would be great for somebody who struggles to do sitting for a long time, right? If you are somebody who has some back discomfort, like sciatica, or maybe like fresh out of hip surgery. Those are just a couple of examples, maybe from some of the more recent assessments we've done. But, you know, being able to alternate between sitting and standing is good for somebody who has sciatica or some other kind of low back injury, because it helps to introduce a bit more mobility, right? So the benefits here is that, you know what, it's going to allow them to easily go up and down. Maybe some of the other things is that portability. So let's say I'm at this station, but I move to a different department or I move to a different workstation. I can easily take this equipment with me. It's low cost, minimal inconvenience. Great. So like, you know, totally checking this off. Yep. My person needs to be able to sit and stand. They have a low back injury. Okay. This is working from a cost perspective. What are the drawbacks, right? And you have to consider this. If you don't consider this, you'll do all of those top 3 things and say, yep, good, checks all the list. And you'll get to this point, and buy it and realize, oh, shoot, this doesn't actually work for when they're in the sitting posture. When my person's in a sitting posture, they need their keyboard to be at their elbow height, right? Thinking about good ergonomics, keyboard should be in line with your elbow height. But because this mounts to the desk, it's not actually allowing the keyboard to go any lower than the desk, which is possibly something that this person needs. And so in this case, as much as this checked off like, yep, gets them to standing, yep, the right cost, yep, gonna work, it's probably not going to be the best solution, right? It's going to totally allow them to get to standing, which increases the movement, but it's not really helping their sitting posture, or potentially causing a worse sitting posture. And 100%, this is what we see. This is common, where, you know, somebody say, oh, I have one of those great sit stand units at their desk, and, you know, I kind of nod along, and again, this is going to work for people. If you can work flat off the desk, if you can have your keyboard on the desk and it is at your elbow height, then this unit will work for you. But if you are a little bit shorter, or need the keyboard to be a little bit lower than the desk height, then this type of a unit is probably not going to work, right? So making sure that we look at the benefits and the drawbacks. Let's look at a different product. Okay, let's look at, oh, I don't know how to, can you guys still see that highlighter line? I don't know how to get rid of that. Oh, hang on, erase all drawings, figured it out. Okay, so let's look at a different product. Let's look at a mouse. Okay, so again, this would be another common question that I get is, oh, you're an ergonomist? Hey, do you use one of those trackball mouse, you know, like the thing with the big marble ball? Nope, I don't, but they are great for some people. I don't particularly use one, but let's go through those questions, right? And kind of figure out when you might recommend this for somebody, when this might be the right ergonomic mouse for a person. So how is this unique? You can tell right off the bat from looking at it, it does not look like a regular mouse. So the unique things here is that the mouse itself, like this whole unit, actually stays still. It stays flat on the desk. It doesn't move around. You manipulate the cursor by using your fingers, usually your second and third finger, and you manipulate that marble. And that ball, it's exactly that. It's a ball, a marble. You roll that kind of around in place, and it moves the cursor around. Those buttons on the right and left side do the same as a regular mouse in the sense of like your right click, your left click, you know, to pull up your menus and whatnot. How does it change how you interact with it? Well, you know what? I just mentioned it doesn't move. So there's a lot less shoulder movement here. And what injury is that ideal for? So somebody who is having shoulder issues, possibly they need to have a little bit less movement there. So that would work for that. Again, thinking about how does it change how the user interacts with it, they are now going to use their fingers more to manipulate that ball. So this could also work. I mean, sometimes people will think that this is going to work for somebody with a wrist injury or an elbow injury, but the biggest reason that this would work for is more likely a shoulder issue, just because it is kind of keeping your shoulder stationary. The benefits, again, is that it's keeping your shoulder stationary. It keeps it nice and close to you, so you have minimal chance of kind of, I don't know if it's an official term, but I call it mouse creep. You know, where your mouse starts to sort of creep away from you, further and further away from you on your desk. So kind of keeps it in one spot, helps to keep your shoulder a lot more neutral. And it's definitely different, right, in the sense that you don't grip the mouse in the same way. That would be another way of how you interact with it differently, is that you don't have to hold or grip the mouse. Your hand just literally rests on that mouse, and it's just your fingers that manipulate the ball. But that also can be a drawback, right? If you think about that, manipulating the ball now means that your fingers are doing a lot more work. And this would be a reason why I don't use it for myself, is that I have pretty small hands, and every time I've tried to use these style of mice, I find that it makes me have to stretch my fingers a lot. So this is not necessarily a mouse that is good for somebody with small hands. It is probably better suited to somebody with potentially shoulder issues. And also, I would also say that they'd have to have a little bit of a larger hand or a wider, like a longer palm, maybe longer fingers, just to make sure that they can manipulate that marble ball with neutral postures. So the thing for me personally is that when I go to manipulate that ball, I feel like I'm stretching my fingers, and it actually feels like it's causing a bit more strain in my fingers, which could then translate to the wrist as well. So benefits, drawbacks. Again, so this mouse will work for some people, but it would not be the be-all, end-all, quote-unquote ergonomic mouse that I would recommend for everybody. But we can kind of go through those 4 questions and evaluate this mouse. And definitely, you know, using the term ergonomic in it is correct in the sense that it's helping some people to interact with their system or improve their efficiency, you know, reduce injury for some people, increase their efficiency, but it won't necessarily work for everybody. Excuse me. Okay, so let's think about another product here. So those are some office type products. Here's another one. There's something super non-office ergonomic, but you know, this is maybe a bit for my own personal research because I'm in the market for a new can opener. My 10-year-old can opener is not cutting cans that great anymore. I think the blade is getting dull, and it is time for me to get a new can opener, and I'm kind of debating, do I get the same can opener that I've had for 10 years, or do I maybe look for something a little bit different? And funny enough, the term ergonomic is used on can openers, like a ton of can openers, like ones that look like your kind of standard metal, very old school looking can opener, to like ones with fancy handles or rubberized grips. And funny enough, I just did a quick little Google search for ergonomic can opener, and this one here is a picture of an electric can opener, and electric can openers didn't even show up on page 1. And in my mind, I would say an electric can opener is a very ergonomic solution. So in this case, sort of like a missed opportunity, I guess, for those can opener companies, not advertising them as ergonomic. Also, I realized, like, after I already put this picture in the presentation, that what a silly, like, look at the picture. What a silly advertising, actually, because they're trying to use this electric can opener on a can that has one of those easy open lids. Anyways, little things. Right? So how is this unique? In this case, this can opener in particular is unique in the sense that there's no manual effort, right? An electric can opener is you just kind of stick the can in and go, duh, you hit a button, and it opens the can for you. So how does it change how the user interacts with it? Well, again, no manual effort. This is going to be great for somebody who has maybe some hand strength issues. Could be like arthritis, or maybe some finger issues, some finger sensitivities, for example. The benefits, again, low effort, like virtually no effort. Great. So why doesn't everybody just get an electric can opener? Well, the drawbacks really are is that we have to consider the space that it takes. We have to consider the power source. You know, do you have a plug that's close by, somewhere where it's going to be safe? So these are the kind of questions, you know, just again, me kind of going through, sort of silly, I guess, going through evaluating some different can openers. So that's an electric can opener that, you know, in theory would be great for everybody, but also, you know, just don't forget about those drawbacks and making sure that you've considered, you know, the pros and the potential cons, because an electric can opener won't work for everything. Ultimately, I think I have decided that I will likely just go back to my regular can opener that I've had for 10 years. I am likely to go out and buy the exact same one because I really liked it and it worked for me. I have tried different can openers and really, like, what does make the can opener ergonomic? Well, ideally, it's making it easier to open the can, right? Usually it's something about like less manual effort. So just funny. Then the difference in prices in can openers too. My goodness. Okay, so let me just check. I see a couple of questions here. A yoga ball chair. Question is asking about if we were to look at a product case study, and I'm happy. Let's. I don't have a picture of a yoga ball chair here, but let's talk about a yoga ball chair just as an example here. Checking my time. We're good for time. Okay, so a yoga ball chair, I'm assuming a yoga ball chair in the sense that we would be using it in place of an office ergonomic chair or just an office chair. So how is a yoga ball chair unique? Well, it doesn't look like a standard chair, right? I guess that would be the quick obvious ones, is that it's not a regular chair, it's a ball. Sometimes people just sit on a regular ball. Sometimes I'm assuming yoga ball chair, they have somewhere that's like the ball is sort of in a holder with a partial backrest. Anyways, there's a whole variety there, but that's the very obvious uniqueness to it. How would it change how the user interacts? Well, now they're going to be sitting on a ball, which means it's a little more unstable, a little bouncy. What else would it change? It might change the height. So the height that you're sitting at, like your chair, I mean, that would be like a pro and a con, right? Your chair is height adjustable. A yoga ball chair is probably not height adjustable. So it's possible that it's going to create the pros and cons. The pros is that I guess some people would argue that it is creating more mobility, right? It's causing you to actually engage muscles in your core. And then the drawback, I mean, I can't think of a drawback every time. The drawback there is that, yeah, like that's like a lot of work. You're not ever really taking a rest. That's the whole point of having a backrest and a fixed chair, is that you're actually able to take a rest, allow your muscles a bit of a break to work and focus and concentrate. What type of injury might it be ideal for? Well, I'm not 100% sure. To be perfectly honest, from a professional standpoint, I probably wouldn't recommend a yoga ball chair. However, you will see them advertised as ergonomic, and they're not necessarily wrong in the sense that it will meet all this criteria. It changes how we interact. For some people, maybe it is more comfortable. However, just me kind of coming back to that professional standpoint is that I wouldn't recommend it, because it wouldn't be a chair that actually, I'm not sure that with a yoga ball chair, you'd actually be able to achieve the proper ergonomic setup, right? You know, getting your keyboard at elbow height, making sure that your monitor is at the right height. The yoga ball chair would lack some of those adjustability features, right? So those would be some of the drawbacks for me, is that it possibly wouldn't create the right posture. So maybe it helps to alleviate some discomfort in like the hips or the low back for a specific individual. But I'd be concerned that it was actually introducing some other not so great postures when at a computer, especially. Oh, maybe even some safety concerns. Falling off of those things. Okay, so that's just, but example, this is how we can take those questions. Hang on, I think, excuse me, that's how we can take those questions. How is it unique? How will it change how the user interacts with it? What discomfort will that product help, right? Is there a very specific injury? But also making sure that we factor in any drawbacks. And what you'll likely find is that you'll have some products that maybe check off a lot of the boxes, and you think about the drawback, and maybe you're not even really sure if it's a drawback. But knowing the person, so if you were introducing that trackball mouse for me, if it was specifically for me, and I was telling you that I had wrist discomfort, and we said, oh, we'll change up your mouse, that's going to help. Here, we'll get you a trackball mouse. But not taking into consideration the fact that my hands are small and that I'm probably not best suited to that mouse would definitely be a missed opportunity there, right? Like a missed step in your evaluation process. And so it's a good idea to read the specs online. If you're looking up a different product, compare a couple of them that look very similar. And if you're still not getting all of the information, to make sure, see if a company will let you trial a product, right? There's lots of times where you could buy something, and if it's not really suiting, you could return it. There could be a trial period. I mean, hey, it doesn't hurt to ask, I think, anyways. It also could be that you're reading reviews, product reviews. Like, that's the big thing with all of this, with online shopping these days, that you've got lots of people that are giving you reviews. So again, it's sort of like taking those reviews with a bit of a grain of salt, and always keeping these kind of 4 questions in mind. But I do feel that these 4 questions will help to guide you when you're looking at just about any product. Again, from a tool to a mouse to a can opener, a yoga ball chair. Like, you could apply it to work, life, play. Like, it can be, you could use these questions to help you evaluate any product, to look at it from that ergonomic perspective. Is it truly ergonomic? Well, is really only truly ergonomic. It's actually helping to improve the well-being and the system performance, right? So it has to be meeting some of those criteria. Again, that's why we talked at the beginning about what is ergonomic. Let's define ergonomics. So yeah, if there's any questions, please feel free to type them in. And if you don't have any questions that you're thinking of right now, but you think of something afterwards, please feel free to email. You can email info@proergonomics.ca, or you can send one to me directly. It's snable@proergonomics.ca. That's fine too. You'll find our information on our website, and you can check out any questions there. Just while I am wrapping up, I'm going to just take a quick peek at the questions. Oh, we just have a follow-up comment about the yoga ball chair. Thanks, we had a few here and we asked people to take them home. Someone actually fell off. You know what, that is 100% my actual story as well, is that my experience, it was way back. I hadn't actually started my career yet. I was still a co-op student, so this is going way back. And I was helping with a wellness initiative. And so we weren't even in an office environment, but the station that I was at was yoga balls, and I think we had, I don't know, 4 or 5 yoga balls, and staff would kind of come through this wellness event, and my job as the student manning that station was that I would have people sit on the ball. We would do some very light bouncing. We would bend over and do a stretch. Like literally it was a wellness, like I was just showing people how to stretch. We were in a nice big open area, but you know, hundreds of people came through that wellness event, and one person lost control. One person fell off that ball and somehow, in their awkward way of falling off that ball, managed to travel about 10 feet and hit their head off of the edge of a table and got 9 stitches to the head. So, and I don't mean to laugh. I'm not at all. It's just that was this is how I started my ergonomics career, really, as a student, just seeing how safety is super important, because when something, you think that nothing is going to go wrong, that it's a very simple activity, that it's a very simple exercise, but it's not necessarily for everybody, right? So those chairs are not great for somebody who doesn't necessarily have good balance, and that was totally the case in this particular example, but that wasn't really part of the intro, right? I didn't know that. Yep, so 9 stitches to the head. That was a lot of paperwork and not a great starting example. So that is, I probably rely on that heavily in the sense of why I don't recommend them, but also you're right, they are not CSA approved. There's nothing about a yoga ball chair that would actually meet the CSA office standard, nothing at all. So I also rely on that actually for why I wouldn't recommend them. Okay, thanks. So let me just check any other questions. I don't really see any other questions unless maybe I've just missed some. But yeah, thank you guys, everybody, for supporting our webinars. Happy to have you join today. I hope that you took home some information, take away some information anyways that you're able to apply, that you find useful when you're looking at products. I know that there can be a lot out there, so try not to feel too overwhelmed with it. I mean, bottom line is if you ever have a question, like let's say you're looking at 2 different chairs, you're looking at 2 different mice, you're looking about something specific, it doesn't hurt to just shoot us a message or give us a call. I absolutely don't mind. It's very possible that, you know, if you want my opinion on a very specific keyboard, it's possible that I've already used it or tried it, and I can give you some very quick feedback. Or you can always try calling some of those product companies too, especially some of the more private ones I find are really good. Like, you know, it depends, like maybe your Staples rep, for example, is great at giving some information, or if you work with a very specific vendor, then they might know some of the ins and outs of the products as well. It can help you. So that takes us to the end of 2019. This webinar is recorded, so you can always tune in later, or you can share it with your colleagues or those that you think might be interested. And don't forget to check us out next year, 2020. We already have our January webinar set. We're going to be talking about ergonomic program maintenance. So just, you know, taking a look at your programs, like being able to evaluate your actual program to make sure that you're not necessarily just going through the motions of, yep, I did ergonomics and I checked off a box, but to make sure that it's actually working in a way that that you want it to, the way that you're intending to, that you're actually seeing results, that you're seeing it be successful, and not necessarily just calling it a flop. So that'll be January, and we'll be getting up our other webinar topics for 2020 very shortly. So thank you everybody for joining. I hope that you all have a great holiday and Christmas season. I hope that you have a great New Year's as well, and we will see you in the new year. Thank you.